Right, Math 3 inverse homework. So this first one we want to decide, is f of x and h of x, are they inverses of each other? Okay, well remember when we're dealing with inverses, they're doing the inverse operations, right? Plus and minus, multiply and divide, square, square root, etc. And they're doing them in reverse order. Okay, so let's take a look at f of x. So what's happening to x here in f of x? Well, first we would add 5. Then we would, I want to put f of x up here. Then we would divide by 2, right? Because that works kind of like parentheses to deal with that first. Now, if we're doing h of x, what happens here to x? Well, first you would times by 2, and then you would subtract 5. So, notice that we've got the inverse operations in reverse order, so yes, they would be. And see how we can see the same terms, so dividing by 2, timesing by 2, adding 5, subtracting 5. Okay. Another way you could look at this is just by taking one of them and finding its inverse. So if we just took f of x, so first we change that to a y, then we swap the x and the y, right? Then we solve for y, so we times by 2 first to get 2x equals y plus 5, subtract 5, and do we come up with the h of x? Yep. So that definitely proves that they are inverses. Okay, now looking at number 2. Okay, this one we do want to find the inverse of each other. So I'm going to do it over here where I have more space. So I take the g of x, that becomes y. Then we swap the x and the y. Then we solve for y. So first thing you have to do is add 3 to both sides. So we get x plus 3 equals y plus 2 to the 5th. And we take the 5th root, giving us those cancel, so y plus 2 equals the 5th root of x plus 3. Then subtract 2 and make sure we put that on the outside. Then we write it inverse notation, -1. G of -1 of x equals the 5th root of x plus 3 minus 2. Alright, so the last one now. Find the inverse of this, then graph the function on its inverse. So, change f of n to y equals 6. Let's just change it to x, since we're graphing it. Swap the x and the y. Solve for y. Subtract 5 first, so x minus 5 equals 6y. Divide everything by 6. We can either write it as 1 over 6x minus 5 over 6, or just x minus 5 over 6 for the inverse function. Okay, and we can try to graph them both by hand. -5/6, that's almost -1, so it'd go like right there. And then we go up 1 to the right 6, or down 1 to the left 6, be roughly like that. And then we graph this one, +5 for y-intercept, 6 over 1, so we'd go up 6, or down 6 to the left one, or up 6 to the right one. But down is a lot easier. Okay, and they should roughly be folded over that line y equals x. I was a little off on mine, so that would explain that. But I would suggest we go to Desmos or another graphing calculator utility, something that we can graph if we want to get that exact function. Just remember, if you're using a graphing utility, that when you type it in that f of n equals 6n plus 5, you've got to change the n's to x's, because most graphing utilities don't recognize that the n is being used like the x variable. Okay, so So let's clear out that stuff, and there we go. We've got the function, its inverse. We've got the y equals x that the inverse is folded over, and there we go, guys.